Periodically in and out of the off season I do. They're certainly not staples of my diet. High quality protein sources, good source of beneficial bacteria for the gut. I tend to not be as satiated from yogurt and kefir as opposed to, let's say, like cottage cheese or just eating a chicken breast or something, so I tend to not work it in as much. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I would kind of hedge my bet towards the end of a prep. Just anecdotally over time, people think that dairy tends to make people hold water. Whether or not that's true is kind of irrelevant because you have limited food choices as your calories get low anyways. So if I have, not a huge amount of, let's say, carbohydrates to play with, I'm not gonna eat them from kefir or yogurt. I'm gonna eat a chicken breast that's gonna sit with me a little longer, and I'm gonna eat a sweet potato. It's just gonna be a better deal for me. Generally, I'd say so. It depends on the person, obviously. It depends on how much it's cultured. There's certain kefirs out there that maybe might not be fermented as much as some other ones. Some of the commercial brands versus something that you might get at your local Greek market or Indian market or something that is bubbling. It's so cultured. Those are going to have vast differences. Really, it's dependent on how the person reacts to it. I personally don't have too much lactose issues. Some people, the second they eat it, they can tell that they eat it. They have bloating and gas and that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, I'm not a big dairy fan personally. I don't really incorporate too much into my diet. I do take in a lot of supplemental whey protein. So I have dairy-based nutrition in there, dairy-based proteins. It's a good source of calcium, but I don't purposely add a lot of arbitrary dairy in my diet. Okay. Definitely not during contest prep. In the off-season, vegetables are your friend, wide variety, especially when calories aren't as tightly controlled and you have freedom to incorporate a lot of different food sources. I think most people would be served, not just for better health purposes, but also for performance over the long term by having a variety of especially fruits and vegetables and well, just foods in general, but especially with vegetables, because people get stuck in the I'm always gonna eat broccoli rut. And then when it comes time to diet for a show, they can't stand broccoli. And then you get these people that they do that for a couple of years and then they never eat it again for the rest of their life. So in the off season, definitely switch things in and out, mix them up, with healthy fats, cook them differently. That's great. During contest prep, again, things start to get tighter and tighter as they move along. And bang for your buck, I'm personally not a big veggie guy anyways. Whereas, my wife will eat pounds of vegetables at night and loves that. That's just not anything that I'm too much of a fan of. So during prep, I'm all about bang for your buck. If I'm gonna eat vegetables, it's gonna be cruciferous vegetables, not just for the health and anti-cancer properties, but also because of the indole content and the anti-estrogen, just kind of some natural estrogen and water elimination. Things like asparagus that kind of help with that versus eating, let's say peas. Even if I'm accounting for the starch in the peas, they don't offer, let's say, a subtle hormonal difference, whereas like a broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, those are all good. Spinach, especially when calories get really tight, Justin and I have talked about that, we talked about that earlier. People can eat 5 pounds of green beans or asparagus in a day and that counts. Spinach is one of the few that really doesn't have any usable starch, so that's a good one, especially when calories are low and carbohydrates are low. That's a prime fiber source without artificially adding a lot of, vegetable starch incidentally into the diet. Well, eggs are one of the best protein sources, especially the whole egg. It's kind of the original gold standard for biological value, before whey protein really came onto the market. The problem with eggs is kind of twofold. One, people get into a monotonous rut with how they prepare the eggs, so it's just a boredom issue. The other thing is because people cook them the same way and generally eat them the same all the time, that's when you get food allergy issues or an immune response to doing it the same way. I tend to, I'm a big fan of whole eggs. I'm a big fan of especially like free range whole eggs. I don't think that regular whole eggs are any sort of health detriment, but if you can spend the extra buck and get a little bit of a better fatty acid profile, a little bit more of the carotenoids and things that make the yolk a little oranger, it's worth the buck if you can afford that. During prep, I'm big on convenience and easy measurability, and consistency on food. So I do a lot of liquid egg whites out of the carton, and that could be cooked as egg whites, that could be 50-50 with protein powder and cooked into protein pancakes or something. It could be mixed with protein powder and drank because they're flash pasteurized in the carton, so they're drinkable liquid. They're not cooked, but they're there's no risk of salmonella or anything. So.